You plan to bury an innocent life, but you will answer for it now.
I'm a 38-year-old technology consultant who spent 15 years building my company, Clayton Industries, from absolutely nothing. Started in a cramped apartment in Detroit, working 18-hour days, surviving on instant ramen and pure determination. By the time this story begins, I'd achieved everything I dreamed of as a kid from the wrong side of town. Success, respect, financial security, and most importantly, a family I thought I'd die for. My first wife, Rebecca, died in a car accident when our daughter Lucy was just 2 years old. Drunk driver ran a red light on a rainy Tuesday evening, and suddenly I was a widowed single father trying to figure out how to raise a toddler while running a growing business. Those were the darkest years of my life. Grieving, overwhelmed, constantly worried I was failing Lucy in every possible way. 5 years later, I met Sarah at a charity gala downtown. I almost didn't go that night, had a stack of contracts waiting for review, but my assistant Marie practically forced me out of the office. Sarah was volunteering at the registration table, radiant in this simple blue dress that probably cost a tenth of what the other women were wearing. While everyone else was networking and schmoozing, she seemed genuinely invested in the cause, a children's hospital fundraiser. When I approached her table, she looked up with these bright blue eyes and the most genuine smile I'd seen in years. We talked for maybe 10 minutes about the charity, about kids needing medical care, and I felt something I hadn't experienced since Rebecca's death. Hope. Not just attraction, but actual hope that maybe I could be happy again. Sarah seemed perfect in every way that mattered. She was warm where my business world was cold, spontaneous where I was calculated, emotionally available where I'd become guarded. When I finally worked up the courage to ask her out 3 weeks later, she said yes without hesitation. Our first date lasted 7 hours. Dinner that turned into coffee, that turned into walking through downtown until the sun came up. 6 months later, I proposed. Looking back, maybe that was fast, but after years of loneliness, Sarah felt like a miracle. She didn't care about my money or my company's reputation. She cared about Lucy, asked thoughtful questions about bedtime routines and favorite foods, and whether Lucy missed having a mother figure. When Lucy met Sarah for the first time at a park, they clicked immediately, building sandcastles, sharing ice cream, laughing like they'd known each other forever. After we married, Sarah transformed our house into a real home. She painted Lucy's room with hand-drawn murals of unicorns and rainbows, organized elaborate birthday parties with homemade decorations, volunteered at Lucy's school events. Every morning, she'd prepare elaborate breakfasts, pancakes shaped like animals, fresh fruit arranged into smiley faces, chocolate chip muffins that made the whole house smell like heaven. Sarah took Lucy to every doctor appointment, fussed over scraped knees like they were major injuries, read bedtime stories with different voices for each character. She remembered every friend's name, every teacher's birthday, every upcoming school project. If someone had asked me to describe the perfect stepmother, I would have described Sarah exactly. For 3 years, our life felt like something out of a magazine. Lucy thrived academically and socially. I expanded my business into 3 new markets, and Sarah seemed genuinely happy managing our household and being Lucy's full-time mom. We took family vacations to Disney World and Yellowstone, had weekly game nights where Sarah would let Lucy win at Monopoly, hosted neighborhood barbecues where Sarah's potato salad was always the first dish to disappear. The only minor concern was Lucy's health over the past 6 months. She'd been unusually tired, complaining about stomach aches and nausea that came and went without any clear pattern. Sarah was actually more worried than I was, scheduling appointments with 3 different pediatricians, researching childhood illnesses online for hours, preparing special bland foods when Lucy felt queasy. Every doctor said the same thing: growing pains, school stress, maybe a minor vitamin deficiency. Lucy was still active and social, still getting good grades, still laughing at Sarah's silly jokes during dinner. The symptoms seemed manageable, nothing that wouldn't resolve itself with time and proper nutrition. That Tuesday morning started like any other. Sarah kissed me goodbye while I adjusted my tie, reminded me about Lucy's parent-teacher conference next week, and mentioned she'd probably redecorate the guest bathroom over the weekend. As I walked through Clayton Industries' gleaming corridors, I felt that familiar satisfaction of having built something meaningful from nothing. Around 10:30, Sarah texted, "Oops, grabbed your briefcase by mistake. Lucy's lunchbox is in your car." "Sorry, honey," I chuckled, shaking my head at Sarah's endearing, scattered nature. Even after 3 years of marriage, she had this absent-minded quality that I found charming. So different from the precise, calculating people I dealt with daily. My 11 o'clock meeting was with Dr. Mitchell Lynch, a former trauma surgeon who'd lost his medical license due to a malpractice lawsuit. but was starting a concierge medical service for wealthy clients who valued discretion above everything else. At 52, Mitchell still carried himself with the confidence of someone who'd saved thousands of lives during his surgical career. When Mitchell entered my office, I gestured casually toward Lucy's bright pink lunchbox sitting on my desk, covered in unicorn stickers she'd applied with artistic enthusiasm. "Speaking of family," I said, "Sarah accidentally packed this in my briefcase this morning. I'll drop it at Lucy's school after lunch." The change in Mitchell was instantaneous and terrifying. Color completely drained from his face like someone had pulled a plug. His hands began trembling slightly, and his whole posture shifted into what I recognized as medical emergency mode. He stepped closer to my desk, examining the lunchbox without touching it, his trained eyes scanning every detail. "Jonathan," he said, his voice urgent but professionally controlled, "I need you to listen to me very carefully. Don't let anyone else touch this. Don't open it. We need to get Lucy and go to the hospital immediately." I stared at him, confused. "Mitchell, what are you talking about? It's just a lunchbox." "That residue around the zipper," he pointed without making contact. "I've seen it before in my surgical training. It's not food particles. It's crystalline, and it has a specific texture that's consistent with arsenic compounds. Old school poison. Tasteless, odorless when properly prepared." The word poison hit me like a physical blow. "That's impossible. Sarah packed that lunch this morning. She would never—" I trailed off, my business-trained mind already connecting dots I didn't want to connect. "I'm not accusing anyone yet," Mitchell interrupted, "but if someone has been introducing small doses over time, it would explain chronic symptoms that doctors might dismiss as normal childhood issues. We need blood tests, and we need them now." My mind raced through the past 6 months. Lucy's unexplained fatigue, the stomach aches that came and went, the nausea that Sarah attributed to growth spurts. 3 different doctors had found nothing wrong. But what if they'd been looking for the wrong things? The drive to the hospital felt surreal. Mitchell followed in his car while I tried to process what he'd suggested. Sarah, my loving wife who fussed over Lucy's health constantly, who prepared every meal with obsessive care, who had taken Lucy to multiple doctors seeking answers for her symptoms. It couldn't be true. It was impossible. At the hospital, Lucy treated everything like an adventure. She swung her legs from the examination table, chattering excitedly about the machines and asking if she could keep the hospital bracelet as a souvenir. At 10 years old, she had my curiosity and quick wit, but thankfully hadn't inherited my tendency to worry about everything. "Dad, why did you come get me from school?" she asked while a nurse prepared to draw blood. "Mrs. Peterson said there was a family emergency, but everyone looks fine." I forced a smile, running my fingers through her dark hair. "Just wanted to make sure you're feeling okay, sweetheart. You've been tired lately, remember?" "That's what Mom always says," Lucy giggled. "She says you'd wrap me in bubble wrap if you could." The innocent comment felt like a dagger. Sarah, the woman who'd earned Lucy's complete trust and affection, who called herself Mom despite not being Lucy's biological mother, who had supposedly been seeking medical answers for Lucy's mysterious symptoms. Mitchell spoke quietly with Dr. Patricia Wells, the hospital's head of toxicology, and someone who owed him professional favors from their previous work together. Dr. Wells was in her early 40s with kind eyes and the demeanor of someone who'd delivered difficult news many times throughout her career. While we waited for results, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "How was your meeting with Mitchell? Pick up some milk on the way home. Lucy's favorite cereal for tomorrow." The casual normalcy of the message made my stomach turn. Either my wife was an innocent woman going about her daily routine, or she was a sociopath capable of poisoning our daughter while texting about breakfast cereal. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming. Dr. Wells approached us with a clipboard and an expression that confirmed my worst fears. "Mr. Clayton, I'm afraid we have concerning results. Lucy's blood shows elevated levels of arsenic consistent with chronic exposure over several months. The levels aren't immediately life-threatening, but they indicate regular ingestion. The hallway seemed to spin around me. My perfect family, my beautiful life, the woman I'd trusted with my daughter's well-being. It was all built on a foundation of lies and attempted murder. The lunchbox contents also tested positive," Dr. Wells continued. "Arsenic compounds mixed into what appears to be homemade cookies, enough to cause serious harm if consumed." Mitchell placed a steady hand on my shoulder. "We need to be strategic here, Jonathan. If this is domestic abuse and we involve authorities prematurely, the perpetrator might escalate or disappear. We need solid evidence, and we need Lucy safe first. Dr. Wells looked uncomfortable but nodded. I can keep Lucy for observation under the guise of investigating her chronic fatigue. That gives you maybe 48 hours before I'm legally required to involve Child Protective Services. 48 hours to prove that the woman I loved, the woman who'd shared my bed for 3 years, had been systematically trying to murder my daughter. 48 hours to gather evidence that could send Sarah to prison for attempted murder while protecting Lucy from further harm. That night, after Sarah had gone to bed early with a stress headache, I worked methodically through our house like the technology consultant I was. Tiny cameras went into picture frames, recording devices into air vents, motion sensors in areas where food was prepared. I used equipment from my company's security division, professional-grade surveillance that would capture everything in high definition. I saved Lucy's room for last. Standing in her doorway, looking at the bed where my daughter should be sleeping safely, I felt a rage unlike anything I'd ever experienced. The unicorn murals Sarah had painted with such apparent love, the bookshelf filled with stories Sarah had read aloud, the jewelry box that played Sarah's favorite lullaby. It was all contaminated now by the knowledge of what had been happening. The next morning, Sarah moved through her routine with practiced efficiency, coffee brewing to the perfect temperature, eggs prepared exactly how I liked them, toast browning to the precise shade of golden I preferred. She wore her favorite yellow sundress, the one that made her look like sunshine itself. I thought I'd bring Lucy some homemade cookies when we visit her today, Sarah said, pulling ingredients from our well-stocked pantry. The chocolate chip ones she loves. I nearly choked on my coffee. The same cookies that had tested positive for arsenic. That's thoughtful, I managed, but the hospital has strict rules about outside food. Something about allergies and contamination protocols. Sarah's hand froze on the flour canister for maybe half a second. Oh, of course I should have thought of that. The micro-expression was so brief I might have missed it if I hadn't been watching carefully. Disappointment mixed with frustration, the look of someone whose plan had been thwarted. Maybe we could stop at the gift shop instead, I suggested. Get her some magazines or a stuffed animal? Sarah's smile returned instantly. Perfect idea. You know how much she loves those silly unicorn toys? Instead of going to my office after breakfast, I drove to a parking garage 6 blocks away where Mitchell was waiting with surveillance equipment. We pulled up the feeds on his laptop. Multiple screens showing different angles of our house from cameras I'd installed the night before. This feels wrong, I said, watching my wife move through our home, spying on someone I've shared a life with. She's not your wife, Mitchell replied grimly. She's a predator who's been living in your house, sleeping in your bed and slowly murdering your daughter. Whatever feelings you had for the woman you thought she was need to be set aside. On the screens, we watched Sarah tidy the house with mechanical precision. Nothing unusual until she entered Lucy's room and sat on the bed, holding one of Lucy's favorite stuffed animals. Her expression changed completely. Gone was the warm maternal smile she always wore around us, replaced by something cold and calculating. Sarah looked around Lucy's room like a real estate appraiser, checking the contents of drawers and examining Lucy's jewelry box with the same detached expression she might use to evaluate furniture. She was taking inventory, planning what to do with Lucy's possessions. She's already thinking about after, I whispered. After Lucy's dead. Mitchell nodded grimly. Psychopaths are excellent long-term planners. They think steps ahead, consider all contingencies. My phone rang. Detective Robert Kane, someone I'd worked with on corporate security matters. I'd called him earlier, asking for an unofficial consultation about evidence standards for criminal prosecution. Jonathan, if you have credible threats against a minor, you need to report this immediately, Kane said without preamble. I can have a patrol car at your house in 10 minutes. It's more complicated than that, Rob. The person I suspect has been very careful, very methodical. If we move too fast without ironclad evidence, we might not get a conviction. Are we talking about domestic violence, child abuse? Attempted murder, poisoning. The silence stretched until I wondered if the call had dropped. Jesus, Jonathan, who are we talking about here? My wife. Another long pause. Accusations of spousal murder are serious, Jonathan. The evidence standards are extremely high, and if you're wrong, false accusations can destroy lives and careers. I have blood tests showing arsenic in Lucy's system and food samples testing positive. What I don't have is proof of who's been administering it. Then you need video evidence of preparation, documented patterns of behavior, clear financial motives, and witnesses who can testify to what they observed. And Jonathan, you need to be absolutely certain. That evening, I came home with flowers and a carefully constructed story. Sarah had prepared what looked like a feast: Lucy's favorite lasagna, garlic bread, chocolate cake with rainbow sprinkles. The picture of a devoted mother preparing a welcome home meal. "What's all this?" I asked, setting the flowers on our kitchen counter. Sarah beamed. "I thought we should have Lucy's favorite meal ready for when she comes home tomorrow." The poor thing must be so scared in that hospital. "Actually, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. The doctors want to keep Lucy for a few more days. They're concerned about some irregularities in her blood work." Sarah's face crumpled with what appeared to be a genuine maternal worry. "Irregularities? What kind? Jonathan, you're not telling me everything, are you?" "It's probably nothing serious," I lied smoothly, "but it got me thinking about our future, about making sure Lucy's protected no matter what happens." I walked over to the wine rack and pulled out Sarah's favorite Chardonnay, acting like the caring husband sticking to routine. "I called Gerard Spence today. I'm planning to update my will." Sarah froze. "Updated how?" "With Lucy being sick, I want to make sure she's protected. If something happens before she's grown, I'm thinking of setting up a trust. If she doesn't live to inherit, the money would go to children's hospitals instead of—" I trailed off, as if I'd almost said too much. "Instead of me," Sarah finished softly. "Sarah, that's not what I meant. I just want to honor Lucy's memory if the worst happens. You understand, don't you?" For a second, her mask slipped. I caught a sharp, ugly flash in her eyes before she smoothed it over. "Of course I understand. Lucy should always come first." But I knew what was running through her mind. I had just threatened the future she'd been building. If Lucy died now, Sarah would get nothing. She needed Lucy alive long enough for me to die. Or she'd have to speed up her plan. "When are you meeting Gerard?" she asked casually, stirring the lasagna sauce. "Tomorrow afternoon. I'll sign the new will, then stop by the hospital. Maybe you could come with me to see Lucy." "Of course, I miss her so much." Her voice trembled with fake emotion. "I just want her home and well again." That night I lay awake, listening to Sarah breathe, wondering how many nights I'd slept beside a killer without knowing it. When I was sure she was out, I checked the surveillance feeds on my phone. Mitchell was parked in a van across the street, watching and recording everything. The next morning, Sarah was unusually sweet. She made my favorite breakfast, kissed me twice, and told me not to forget Lucy. Her act was perfect, except she had packed an extra thermos of soup. "For Lucy," she said, "maybe the nurses will let her have it. She's barely eating, and it's just soup." I took it without comment, already knowing it would be tested within the hour. If it was poisoned, we'd have her. At the hospital, Dr. Wells confirmed it. "The soup has enough arsenic to cause serious harm, maybe death if finished. She's speeding up because you threatened to change your will. She needs Lucy gone before your meeting today." Mitchell joined us, drained from his night in the van. We caught it all on camera. Her cooking, slipping powder from a vial, even her face while she did it. Cold, deliberate, precise. This is attempted murder, premeditated. "Is that enough to arrest her?" Dr. Wells asked. "It's enough to charge," Mitchell said, then looked at me. "But Jonathan, once we move, there's no turning back. Are you ready?" I glanced at Lucy through the window. She was reading in her hospital bed, pale and tired, but alive. She had no idea her stepmother was trying to kill her. "I've been ready since I learned the truth," I said quietly. "But I want her to confess to everything, including her dead husband's." I called home. Sarah answered at once, sounding breathless and anxious. "Jonathan, how's Lucy? Did she like the soup?" "Sarah, you need to come to the hospital now. Something happened." "What? Is Lucy okay?" "Room 314. Pediatric wing. Hurry." I hung up, knowing my clipped tone would convince her Lucy was dead, that her plan had worked. She'd rush in expecting to comfort a grieving husband, not find Kane waiting with cuffs. 37 minutes later, Sarah came running through the doors, sobbing. Her clothes were thrown on wrong, mismatched shoes, sweater inside out. She looked like a frantic mother in despair. "Jonathan!" She threw herself into my arms, crying. "What happened? Please tell me Lucy's okay." Over her shoulder, I caught Kane's eye. He nodded. Every second was being recorded. "Sarah," I said carefully, "we need to talk. We have questions about Lucy's condition." Only then did she notice Kane. "Questions? Who are you?" "Detective Kane," he said. "I'd like to ask you about your daughter's illness." "Stepdaughter," Sarah corrected too quickly, then backtracked. "I mean, she's not mine by blood, but I love her like she is. I'd do anything for that little girl." "I'm sure you would," Kane said flatly. Mrs. Clayton, are you aware Lucy has arsenic poisoning? Her face drained of color. I didn't see confusion, just fear and quick calculation. Arsenic, that's impossible. How could she? Where would she get exposed? We tested the soup you sent this morning, I said. It had enough arsenic to kill a grown man, let alone a 10-year-old. The silence was heavy. Her face shifted through expressions like she was trying on masks. At last, she whispered, "That's impossible. I made it myself." "From scratch, no way. Unless someone added poison after you cooked," Kane suggested. Sarah's eyes lit up. "Yes, that must be it. Someone tampered with it." "But who would do that?" Mitchell finally spoke. "Mrs. Clayton, arsenic poisoning builds over time. Lucy's blood shows exposure for months. Who besides you has prepared her meals that long?" Sarah looked around as if searching for a way out. "I make most of her food, but there's the housekeeper, the school cafeteria, and—" "Sarah," I cut in, my voice like steel. "Stop." She froze. When she looked at me, she must have seen the truth in my eyes. The mask dropped. The panic act faded, replaced by cold intelligence. "You know," she said quietly, "I know you've been poisoning my daughter for 6 months. I know you married me for money, and I know you plan to kill both Lucy and me for the inheritance." Sarah straightened. For the first time since I met her, I saw who she really was. Calm, ruthless, unashamed. "You can't prove any of that," she said. Kane lifted his phone, still recording. "Actually, we can. We have video of you making that poisoned soup. We have records of you digging into Jonathan's money and insurance. And we have doctors testifying about strange deaths in your past." "What deaths?" "My first husband, Gerald, died of a heart attack. No one ever said it was foul play." "There is now," Mitchell cut in. "I had his body dug up yesterday." "The arsenic in his hair and bones tells the truth, Mrs. Clayton. Or should I say Christina Walsh?" For a moment, panic showed in Sarah's eyes, but she recovered fast, turning to me with tears that almost looked real. "Jonathan, please. You have to believe me. I love Lucy. I love you. I'd never hurt either of you." "You researched arsenic poisoning on our computer," I said flatly. "You bought arsenic with fake ID. You've been rehearsing murder for half a year." Her mask finally fell. The tears dried, her back straightened, and her voice turned cold. "You think you're so clever, Jonathan? The genius businessman who built an empire from nothing. But you were easy to play, so desperate for a mother for your precious Lucy." "Actually," I said, "I investigated after Lucy got sick. Sarah Shelton doesn't exist. Your real name is Christina Walsh. You've had 4 husbands before me. 3 of them died under mysterious circumstances." The shock on her face was real this time. "That's impossible. I covered every trace." "Did you really think I built a business by being careless? I know about Robert Martinez in Phoenix, dead of a heart attack at 31. I know about David Kim in Seattle, who suddenly died from a shellfish allergy he never had before. And I know about the insurance payouts you took before vanishing to reinvent yourself." Kane stepped forward with cuffs. "Christina Walsh, you're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy, and suspicion of murder in the deaths of Gerald Morrison, Robert Martinez, and David Kim." As the cuffs locked, Christina glared at me with pure hate. "You have no idea what you've done. I have friends, connections. This isn't over." I stepped closer, my voice low and sharp. "Yes, it is. And if anyone you know even looks at my daughter wrong, I'll break them the same way I broke you." But she wasn't bluffing about her connections. 3 days later, she was out on $2 million bail, covered by a shell company called M Enterprises. Kane's digging turned up something worse. Christina wasn't acting alone. She was part of a ring that specialized in long cons and murder for profit. Their game was simple. Target rich widowers with kids, slip in as partners, kill off the heirs, then finish the husband. Slow poison looked like illness. Grieving men remarried fast without deep checks. By the time suspicion arose, the killer was gone with millions. Christina had been one of their top players. 3 clean kills before she set her sights on me. The network gave her new names, papers, research, and backup. This was no lone killer. We were facing an international murder-for-hire machine, and now she was free, while the network still worked in the shadows. Lucy would always be at risk unless I ended it. I called Marcus Rodriguez, a former Special Forces soldier turned private security pro. Our talk was brief, coded, and expensive. Over 6 weeks, Marcus tracked and took out the network's current operatives, women already poisoning kids in Dallas, Phoenix, and Miami. Each hit mirrored their own methods, looking like natural deaths. More important, 3 children lived who would have died slow, painful deaths from caregivers. The leaders ran things from a compound in Nevada. Margaret Sinclair, a former insurance investigator who perfected the scheme, Brian Schneider, a chemist who made the poisons, and Wallace Beck, a forger who built the fake lives. When Christina vanished after her arrest, they planned to spring her during prison transfer, staging an accident. They didn't expect us waiting. I demanded to be there. This wasn't just business. Christina had broken every law of trust and family. The fight was short, but final. When it ended, Margaret Sinclair and most of her crew were dead. The ring was finished. We moved to Colorado to start over. Lucy healed fast, her blood tests perfect. She bounced back with surprising ease, barely asking about Sarah's disappearance. I told her stepmother was sick and gone for treatment. She accepted it. Mitchell moved to Denver and opened his practice, becoming like family. Lucy calls him Uncle Mitchell and loves his medical books with bright pictures. Kane earned a promotion for the case, though he never admitted my role in ending the network. The naive man who trusted too easily is gone. What's left is sharper, harder. But watching Lucy chase fireflies in our backyard, I know the cost was worth it. I lost my innocence, maybe part of my soul, but I saved her life. People sometimes ask if I regret taking justice into my own hands. My answer is simple. When someone threatens your family, you don't wait for the system to maybe work. You don't spare predators who hunt children. You win. Christina is serving life with no parole. The network is gone. Lucy is safe, happy, and growing up loved. In the end, that's the only victory that matters.